I mean, the first one she found out about that, she was like, oh man, this is I'm gonna miss that. I said, well, wait a minute, let me ask and bring the people in it. I was like, that's like, I didn't know she was like, you could be involved, because that's really the because she wanted to work, you know? Mm-hmm. So that was kind of like, yeah, that's a status.
Right before I left the office.
Yeah, they look.
Didn't make it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're there. They were there.
they weren't there for a while.
Inside Chatham.
Good for you.
Is that the parks, the cleanup and beautification?
6 o'clock, bro. Oh, is it in here? You ready? I don't know. I hadn't. It's not for me. Obviously.
Partially.
Call to order.
Do we need a motion?
I would imagine. Do we need a motion, Greg, for chair to?
Mayor's sick this evening.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Trustee Gerger as chair of this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Short straw. All right. Call to order. Join me in a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Trustee Mann.
Here.
Trustee Gerger.
Present.
Trustee Charo.
Present.
Trustee Detmer.
Here.
Trustee Mao.
Present.
Trustee Churchill.
Present.
Village President Kimsey.
Okay, any public announcements? Nobody signed up. Public comments on agenda topics?
Nobody signed up.
Okay. Motion to bring the consent agenda forward.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Mao,
I'll second.
trustee Mann, second. Any discussion on the board minutes or the warrants?
The minutes are good.
Oh, thanks, Steve.
I had one question on the warrants. There was a $1,600,
$1,667, I think.
yes, charge for removing branches. We're not burning branches any longer. Fire department asked us to cease that. It was causing too much smoke. The thing would reignite itself on its own. So then they'd have to come down, spray it all down. It would soak everything back there, and then we'd have to have one of our workers come in and kind of pull the burn pile apart. So we're just going to pay to have them hauled into the same place that the guys that come around and pick up every month in front of their house. So that's what the charge will be each month for the next year.
So this will alleviate the man hours spent towards maintaining that dump.
Those were members of our street crew.
That we're having to pull that stuff all out and everything, yeah, and burn it. So we'd get calls at night all the time that the fire started back up again and the smoke was blowing directly to the senior center. It's just not worth it anymore. So what we'll try to do is make sure that everything is hauled out, so, and keep it cleaned up all the time.
So the residents can currently dump at the dump site, with village permission from the utility office. And then the village would also, because the village does dump back there, like if it were to trim trees in the streets, right? They put some things back there, but we might put it in a location that's easier for them to get to. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
We may move that drop pile to another location. We're working on that, but
To try to clear up that lot in the back.
Yeah.
And use it for other
and
purposes.
it's so muddy and wet and everything right now that we would prefer to be dropped in another location. So we're working with the company that picks it up and our own staff on moving some stuff around to be able to do that. So once that gets determined, then that's where we'll make sure everybody knows where the new drop location's at.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Old business, seeing none, move to new business. An ordinance approving a proposal from Kinney Contractors, Inc. for Glenwood Park culvert replacement. Discussion?
This has been going on for quite a while. It happened, I would say March of last year, maybe. Yeah, there was a pipe that goes underneath one of the roads out there that connects two of the ponds together. The pipe started to cave in, the road started to cave in. Jim came out, looked at it, our crews turned around, put barricades in it, and that road's been blocked off all through the summer and into the fall and now into the winter. The pipe is the responsibility of the homeowners association because it's part of their drainage plan. So they agreed to cover that portion of it, and the road is ours. So if you look at the contract that's online, the total cost of the package was $68,219. The village portion of it is $32,019, and the homeowners association's portion is $36,200.
Why, if their culvert caused our road to fail, why would the road be our, just help me figure it out. Why would the road be our responsibility?
It's still, it's our road. We have to make sure that it's fixed.
Right,
Don't
Okay.
they, as a,
understand.
Yeah.
don't they as an HOA have insurance for things that, like that, being it's their property caused our damage? Would they not have insurance to fix that, as whether it be liability insurance or?
I do not know that. I know that they are willing to cover 36,000 of this, and I think that's generous. I wouldn't think that a lot of communities would agree to do that.
Right.
So I thought it was a good compromise.
That was my question. Why aren't we on the hook then for all of it? But it's because it's their culvert going under our road.
We don't fix other drainage ways. If a concrete swale fails in someone's backyard or a retention pond fills up, we don't repair those.
Right,
Those fall on the homeowners associations.
correct.
We're lucky that we have a good homeowners associations that's willing to cover this.
So then, Matt, to your point, so for insurance wise, whoever has homeowners insurance there, most policies give you $1,000 for up to $1,000 for homeowners assessments. So those associations will do an assessment. They'll give each out, your insurance will provide that to help defer that cost for homeowners. So that $36,000, if you live in that neighborhood, you could file an insurance claim on the assessment.
They hired an engineering firm to look at the design of the pipe, and then they brought that to us. Jim reviewed it, and then we looked at what we were going to do on the road. They are not required to go out for bid, so they wanted to hire Kinney Contractors to do that portion. We asked them to give us a quote. That was the quote that you see there for the $32,019. Jim reviewed that. He thought those numbers were fair. So I talked to Greg, do we need to go out for bid? He said if there's an ordinance written so that they can house it.
You're allowed to waive the bidding requirements with a 2/3 vote from the Board of Trustees through the ordinance. So the ordinance as written would waive that bidding requirement.
So we're using their contractor instead of our own.
That's what was my question too. Do they need to be the same contractor? Like, can the drainage work be done by Dewey and then Matt does the road work or anything? Again, was it just more of a convenience thing, or was there did they provide this service in some unique way that another person couldn't, that kind of thing? That's all my question.
It could be done by both, but you're going to have mobilization costs for both contractors where now you only have mobilization for one. They have the
Mobilization
capability
is just them bringing their equipment out, that kind
and
of.
getting everything set up.
Okay, so preparing themselves to do the job
Yeah.
is a fee in addition to doing the job.
Oh, yeah.
I would tend to err on the single throat to choke if anything fails, though. I mean, you can go right after Kenny Contractors. If 2 years down the road, this culvert starts to fail, well, you don't get any finger pointing on, well, it's failing because you built too much, your road base is too thick, or you don't get any of that. You just go
Or you
after.
didn't get a good down for the setting of the pipe, and the
Exactly.
pipe has started to sink. So
What if the road starts to fail? Culvert acts fine, the road, because we don't have a contract with that Kenny Construction, correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to bill us for our portion of it, and they're going to bill them for their portion.
And will the contract have any kind of, not warranty, but,
Will it have teeth?
yeah, will it have
Go
any
back
kind of
on,
teeth?
Kenny,
If the
in
road
case
fails
something
next, say it fails next,
With all work, it's about a 1 year.
Right.
Warranty period, so if the concrete falls up in the middle of the winter or something like that. Plus Rob Kenny lives in Chatham, he's vested in the community, so wants to continue to do work here and has done work in the past for the village, so it's not a company that's just gonna disappear and run, so they'll stand behind the work.
Yeah, and I'll say from experience and seeing what they've done, they do a great job. Kenny Construction does. And I don't, I have full faith that they'll do a good job here too, so.
so this, with Kenny, is this a reasonable price from, I mean, you see this every day.
Price related to the village's portion of the contract, and it's in line with work that they've done for the village in the past, and in line with competitive bids, for this type of work and this magnitude of work. It is smaller in quantity, so that's another concern that we have. The larger the job, you just get the value and economy associated with one guy doing all the work at one time, as opposed to 2 or 3 different contractors trying to mobilize and fight under the same location. So numbers are reasonable and fair. There's nothing there that stands out as a red flag to me on it. Pat asked me for my opinion, and I would recommend approval moving forward with it. As a single contractor, with those few guys.
The only problem, or the only issue, the main issue I see is we have this happen often where it's over and we don't go out for bid. That's why, when I first started on the board, I wanted to look at it like a procurement ordinance or something. I know this is time sensitive though, correct? I mean, it's been closed for 6 months.
And the homeowners association wants to move forward immediately with their portion of the project, so.
So if they do theirs and we don't do ours, it's just a hole in the road.
Yes.
So I get that, but I think going forward, we really do need to consider some sort of ordinance for procurement. The state has an ordinance for procurement.
We
Sets
have,
guidelines.
we have one. I mean, it's $20,000.
Yeah.
I have not asked you very often to waive bidding. This is one
Understand.
case.
Understand. And I'm not saying it about this case. I'm happy with Jim's question, but
It's just an unusual case with it being something that was.
it's not us.
It's brought forward by an HOA.
Right.
If it was all us paying it, we would go out for bids.
Right.
And Jim, that's gonna be the good rock base, right? Not the crushed lime and the other issues we've had in the past with,
Because
road building.
when we do the other, like when we did Park, you guys go get those bids, right?
Correct.
And then we do the bidding process.
It'll go through the state bidding process.
Right.
Or, like the underpass at Plum Boulevard, we did a local bid through the village, because it was village funds.
Right.
FT money. But any of the projects that we've bid that have been in excess of $25,000 has been
Bid.
for bid.
Okay. Any other discussion?
No, just a continuation of that, just quickly, because I think the other item on the agenda also is similar in that we want to go past the ordinance again, right? With the sickage plan, it's the same situation where,
Well, you're not required to bid auditing professional services, so that doesn't.
yeah, I think, yep, I understand.
Okay.
Generally, the required to bid and should we bid maybe are different, but. I'm on the same page.
So for this ordinance, any more discussion?
Not in this one.
Okay. Roll.
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Next, ordinance renewing the engagement contract with Sikich LLP Audit Services for the Village of Chatham. Just speaking of this, I'd like to thank Sherry and Jill. They won the award for the budget again.
The Distinguished Budget
We're
Award?
going to name it the Sherry Award at some point. This is our first timer?
Yes, this is our budget. We presented our budget document and the GFOA granted us the distinguished budgeting.
Congratulations. Thank you for all the hard work you do. And now we'll talk about this ordinance. Discussion.
This ordinance is asking for a 3-year extension for sickage. You can see the cost each year. It's professional services. We were in the habit of switching about every 3 years, but Sherry has told us that she's going to be retiring in November of 2011.
2011.
Oh,
She's backdating it?
10 years, hey. how's
Back to
that?
the future.
She's retired.
2021. Okay. And this will get our audits, the continuity of them working with us past when she retires, so that when we get somebody in to replace, they've seen what we've done over the last few years. We'd like to be able to do that. If you looked at the literature on the Government Finance Officers Association, it says governmental entities should enter into multi-year agreements of at least 5 years in duration when obtaining the services of independent auditors. Such agreements allow for greater continuity, potential for disruption in connection, and multi-year agreements can also help reduce audit costs by allowing auditors to recover certain startup costs over a several-year period. So with that in mind, we would like to sign a 3-year contract with them.
So if the GFAO recommends 5, why not ask them to provide a 5?
Well, they did the last 3, so if they do another 3,
It's
that's,
essentially 6.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I know with the last one, so with the last ordinance that we just, I know that was from the HOA, so just kind of talking about procurement. And then, and you had mentioned it at the previous meeting in your village manager update, so we had a heads up on this. We haven't reviewed this at all yet or talked about it, the sickage. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it.
No,
well, we reviewed the contract before today's meeting, but we haven't discussed it before.
Right.
Right.
There's been no discussion on this.
Right.
I know the culvert we discussed last week, the last meeting or the meeting.
The last
before.
committee, yeah.
and me and Sherry will try to answer as many questions or any questions that you have on it.
But this doesn't really need done though. So they do, Sherry, they do their audit in like September, October, November?
They will start field work probably, we'll have a preliminary meeting, they're awarding the contract in March. They'll come out in April and do some preliminary testing.
So we have a little time if we, I would think we should discuss this at least. I know with state procurement, when I was in procurement at CMS, you know, we could do a 5-year contract and you could do 1-year renewables, but then you couldn't exceed a certain amount with any vendor, no matter what the timeframe without going out for bid again. Did we go out for bid when we got them for this first 3 years?
It's not really bids, it's just a quote because it's
Right.
professional services.
So we don't have
They
to get
don't
bid. Right.
This is what our fee is and you hire them on
Did we get any other,
qualifications.
did we get any other quotes when we
Didn't
went
ask
out?
for any other quotes because we wanted,
We did.
oh, previously, correct, but
Yeah.
not this time.
No, the previous 3 years.
Yeah,
When we first got them 3 years ago.
yes, we did.
We did?
Did we choose Sickage at that time because they were cheap or more on their reputation? Or was it a combination of?
I think they were a little bit, and they had.
Right. Obviously, they're known well in the area.
Well, and I know, you know, some auditing firms, I mean, municipalities are different and state auditing is different than
Yeah.
private auditing.
It isn't just the lowest price, the qualifications.
Sure.
Matter a lot because it's a very specialized area.
So if we did 2 years, that would get you through 2022. That would match what the standards say, 5 years. And then we'd look to keep them or do something else, where you'd get,
2 years would get us through 21, and that's when she's leaving, which means that you may have a brand new auditing firm entering as we have a new CFO entering. I think is that what you were saying earlier? Like we're trying to avoid that. And as being part of an audit for most of my professional life, I can tell you that when the auditors switch,
it's
it's
cumbersome.
painful.
Yeah.
Because you have to reteach everything.
I know
It's
that.
not that they're digging into things that haven't been dug into before, but it's almost like teaching somebody a foreign language. At least that's been my experience in telecom. So,
Any other discussion? Do we want to move this to have more discussion?
What do you think?
I mean, this is a lot of money to just vote on tonight with just reading the contract. And I know we don't have to bid it, but it's still over a threshold and probably,
Ask for more quotes?
no, just more discussion about it.
You want to move it to old business and then you can address it at the last meeting in January is fine.
Yeah, let's, can I get a motion to move it to old business?
Make that motion.
can I ask Sherry a few questions? Just generally, do you enjoy working with them? Are they? I mean, I assume that you played some role in helping to choose them. Like, not to put you on the spot, but
They're a very good firm to work with. They have excellent resources. They provide us education with employee benefits or payroll topics, as well as they provide, I had 12 hours of continuing professional education I was able to get through their resources, which we didn't pay any extra for that.
Yep,
It was just
that's usually free.
being a client with them. They're well-known. They were the ones that helped us get the CAFR award. And I know when our report goes through review, it's not just one person, they have a quality control area and departments based out of in the Chicago suburbs that they are looking at a report that know nothing about our community. But I would recommend, they're one of the best governmental firms in this area.
Who did we have before them? Do you remember?
We had Estes Bridgewater and Ogden.
Okay.
You remember that?
Have they challenged you and pointed you in directions that maybe you wouldn't have gone on your own? Meaning where they would say, point out a certain path that you've gone down or said, that may not be best practice in this area. You may want to look at doing it like this.
They can, they always would they can make suggestions to improve controls. That's when they review it and controls. They advise us, just recently, we had a issue brought up with our deferred compensation plan. If we're going, right now is the GASB pronouncement that's out there. We might have to pick up our deferred compensation plans in our financial report, which is going to cost more to audit. They have offered us some solutions through their consultants in their Aurora office and talked to us about what we can do. We can appoint or set up a different committee to oversee the deferred compensation plan, so we don't have to include it in the financial statements. So those are things like they always bring up. They keep us up to date on all the GASBs, all the reporting issues. The most recent one you saw in the financial statements was the OPEB. That was a big one to have them make sure we have all the proper disclosures and everything is in line.
I mentioned that to you guys at the committee of the whole meeting last time, that we may have to switch that. The other thing that they do is they interview our senior staff. They interview me and ask me if I think that anything is being done illegally or improperly. They go and ask Shane. They go through a lot of our staff, question that. They care enough to know on what type of computer system we have and the security we have for it, and whether we have plans in place. So essentially, they audit that as they go along too. So they are full service by far.
The only thing I know with with the auditing contracts we had at the state too, you do have the issue when there's a changeover. It's a mess. But the other issue is sometimes they get so used to looking at things, they can miss things too. And there's, recently there was just in the Springfield News, there was two ladies, financial people that had been stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from an association, and the auditors never caught it. Well, they had the auditing firm for 10 years. So while we may keep them, and we may decide to keep them for this time period, we probably need to consider next steps of, do we get bids, or do we do 2 years and then get bids, or do you do 3 and get bids? But the recommendation, I talked to our financial officer for my association today. He said 5 years is a minimum that you should keep them because of just the headache of turning that process over. And if there's going to be any kind of, if they miss anything, 5 years is good.
And that's the reason that we asked for this other 3, is to get it past Sherry's replacement. Because like you said, it's going to be turmoil, and if you have a brand new treasurer and brand new auditors.
What do we, that contracted price, that's all we pay? There's no extras, there's no add-ons?
I think the only add-on is if some new pronouncement would come up where they would have to do additional work, and then they would tell me up front.
What the cost would be?
Yeah, the hourly rates are specified there.
Yeah.
Like if the village requires additional services that, yeah.
What have we averaged paying them per year the last 3 years? Do you know?
I just think I'm not, last year we paid them $28,000 in fees.
Okay,
This is 28,750.
Much in line.
right, with what it's been.
Do you want to, trustee Miles made a motion, do you want to?
I'll rescind my motion and make a motion to accept this contract.
Unless, do you want to table it to old business and just vote on it next time to think about it, or are you just ready tonight?
It's up to you guys. I don't know that I would vote on it tonight, but that's,
I mean, does it hurt anything to wait on old business?
No.
No, that's fine. I didn't anticipate it being passed.
yeah.
Honestly, I would.
I asked Dave, and Dave said, put it on there. He goes, he thinks that there'd be good discussion. If it moves to old business,
That's fine.
it's not a problem.
The offer stands for 90 days and it was just sent December 18th, so.
Yep.
Are you still rescinding?
I'll motion to table it.
I'll second.
So a motion to table by trustee Mao, which was moved to a motion to vote, and then moved to a motion to table. And then I have a second by trustee Scherschel to table. Roll. For the motion to table.
Move it to old business.
Move it to old business.
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Public comments on village business? Schedule of meetings, Chatham Fire Police Commission meeting, January 15th, 2025, 5:30. Planning Commission, 6 p.m., Municipal Hall, January 16th, 2020. Village Board, 6 p.m., Municipal Hall, January 28th, 2020. Village Board, 6 p.m., Municipal Hall, February 11th, 2020. And Committee of the Whole, 6:15, Municipal Hall, February 11th. Do we have any reason to meet for the closed session?
Do not.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Detmer, seconded by trustee Charo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And on to the committee of the whole. Call to order, so roll call for committee of the whole.
Trustee Mann.
Here.
Trustee Berger.
Present.
Trustee Charo.
Present.
Trustee Detmer.
Here.
Trustee Mao.
Present.
Trustee Churchill.
Present.
Any public comments on agenda topics?
Get into it. Yeah, we'll just get into it in the public properties.
Have a motion to bring the consent agenda forward.
Make that motion.
Trustee Mao,
Second.
trustee Charo. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Old business, we have nothing. New business, CMT engineering updates.
Turn that on. Gotta hold that button down.
Say our engineer can't figure out the microphone.
Can't see, can't hear. Good engineer, though. Actually, not a whole heck of a lot going on with the winter months, but we do have a few things. We're talking about the culvert repair. So if that moves forward, Kenny's saying it's going to take about 5 to 7 days worth of work to do that. So they're going to get in, mobilize, and get out as quick as possible to minimize the inconvenience and get the roadway back open to the public. So, we'll be out on site to observe the culvert installation within the right-of-way areas to make sure that that's done properly, and then obviously the roadway portion of that. Another project that we're looking at is just a small street repair at Spruce at the entrance at Gordon Drive on the downhill slide there where all that pavement's starting to slide out. So doing some pavement patching there and some ditch regrading down Gordon Drive to accommodate that long-standing problem that's been an issue for quite some time.
Right by there on Gordon Drive, right before Manor Hill, there used to be like rails. And
There used to be guardrail there, you're
there
right.
used to be guardrails, and there's no guardrails. So if ice comes, you can just slide right down in the creek.
That used to be with the old structure. But,
Yeah.
in terms of the new structure, the shoulders are
A little
wide
wider.
enough, so you're clear.
So you're
zone.
good?
Yeah, so you have enough overrun area if you were to slide off the roadway, but, it's
So if I slide off in the ditch, you'll come get me?
doing the speed limit.
Yes.
Some point.
I'll be going slower than the speed limit.
You described it as a small patching. I thought that was going to be like completely overhauled and there was going to be a drainage way put underneath that entrance.
Correct, we'll improve the drainage, but it's considered more of a patch, a maintenance type item as opposed to a full roadway reconstruction like we did in Oak Brook a few years ago or, park from tip to tail, so.
Will it be similar to the one in Manor Hill, going up the hill?
Identical.
Oh, man, that's been good.
Because you're not just going in throwing asphalt on top of it.
No, we're going
it's
to
not
remove the
patchwork.
pavement.
Concrete?
Put concrete back in, improve the subgrade,
Yeah.
put some drainage under there because there is a lot of weepage that comes out underneath the sidewalk and the curb line there.
Yeah.
Then improve the drainage on that ditch that goes to the south on the west side of Gordon Drive.
And so are we only repairing the entrance, which would actually be the exit on the south side of the?
That is correct.
We're not doing anything on the north side or the entrance?
Not right now.
And that's just due to money? 'Cause that's probably the worst spot of roadway in town, I would imagine.
I had
It's
a-
crazy.
I had a constituent reach out just right before Pat, well, I know we had voted on it a while back, but a constituent from over there was asking about it and was very pleased to hear it was. And I remember driving over and it's a roller coaster.
It's high traffic. A lot of people
Yeah.
use that and Gordon Drive to go to work and back to home. So it's gets a lot of usage and it's consistent with our plan using MFT dollars to fix the highest volume, worst roadways as a priority. So, we're not just, squeaky wheel gets the grease. This is a needed improvement and it's in the maintenance resolution for MFT to do that type of work. So
I thought we had it on the docket for 2019. I thought we talked, because it was like December
No,
10th last time
we
we
did.
met, and we were like.
It's just
still
the
gonna get it.
contractor couldn't get out there to do it.
Yeah.
He's been told he can do that work. It's just him mobilizing and getting out there and doing it. So
he says he gets 3 good days, he'll go in there and get it done.
Okay.
All Other than that, not a lot going on till spring breaks, and we'll start getting together a new MFT program for 2020, 2021 as we move forward. So you'll see those documents come through. We'll close out this past fiscal year's MFT program and start doing a little bit more street work associated with the availability of the street crews.
What is the status of the water plant?
Last that I've heard, they're still waiting on the equipment for the device that feeds the chloramines, that there was a equipment malfunction when they went to turn that on. So the manufacturer, Hawk, is going to be out there sometime mid-January to do the testing, put in the new equipment, and make that operational. So everything that I'm hearing, it's going to be probably later this month that moves forward.
So this equipment that failed, was that initial equipment that was put in when the plant was first done, or was that equipment that was put in since the chloramines have been talked about?
I think it's equipment that's been put in but has been sitting idle for so long. And a lot of that equipment is, very fine-tuned calibration. So when they went to work on that and activate it, that it failed. So it prevented them from putting it online.
I mean, it concerns me because it seems like every time we try to do something new out there, the wheel falls off and we're off it again. And we've discussed this before, and I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I don't know if you know what the answer is, or I don't know that we as a board have the answer. But to keep breaking the wheel or breaking whatever every time we try to do something new, that's got to stop. And I don't know how we do that. I mean, do you have any ideas, or maybe this board has ideas on how to make that stop?
It's tough with a different organization, running that equipment. It's not the village that's running the plant. So, we're providing oversight as necessary to, assist as needed in those areas to help the process along. But, it's something new. It's, a new process. It's new people out there. So, it's.
There may be new people, but I would expect that they know what, how to do it, run it, whatever it takes.
But it is a new process, so, I don't know if there's a reluctance to moving forward with it, or, if it's, they're comfortable with what they're doing now. But, at this point with the equipment, it's kind of nobody's fault. An equipment failure, it is what it is. They've waited months to even get that manufacturer out there for the initial setup, because it is something that requires a specialty company to go out there, calibrate it as it's running, and then move forward. So when they finally did get out there, it didn't work. So then it's new.
That's the other part that gets me, is we took 12 plus months to get the company out there, then the freaking thing breaks. I mean, that's.
So was that piece of equipment bought when the first decision was made to move forward with the chloramines?
That I don't know.
So, because to Trustee Mao's point, they decided to move forward, they moved on it, and this company took so long to come, and it had been calibrated, and by the time they go and it broke? Or was it something that was just put out there for other reasons, or just ready? Maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't.
I believe as part of this improvement to bring chloramines online, so, whether or not it's was broke from the manufacturer to begin with, and was installed and it doesn't work, or what other condition there that caused it not to work. But because it is being replaced, they will come back for the calibration and start up for that. So
Was it on so long that it was out of warranty?
no, that's all.
Okay,
That's all on that.
good.
I remember when we had our utility meeting out at the water plant, they were talking about that one company, and they are at the whim of this one company. So, so some of that is the tail wagging the dog. So they want to move forward, and then they're ready, and then it's this company they're waiting on.
And I know Bill's expressed his frustration with, how long it's taken for their guys to get out here, and it's a specialized piece of equipment with only a certain number of people that can run that. So it's, you are kind of at their whim.
I mean, my frustration's not, I mean, I don't want you to think it's directed towards you, but it's directed towards the whole situation out there. And not at Bill either, but just that whole soon situation.
Member of the community as well, let's
Yeah.
share your frustration.
That was just odd, just to, we finally got that, okay, it's no longer.
It's no longer
coming.
soon.
It's no longer soon, it's happening.
Yes.
And then you get the message,
The company we were waiting for,
Catastrophic failure.
it was their part. So
Out of Texas, right? Is that company?
I'm not sure where they're at.
So the cost of the new part, is that this company's, I mean, is that under warranty? Is that they paying for
I would
it?
assume, yes.
That's all their deal.
Would hope.
So,
All right, nothing else?
that's it.
Just end on that fun note.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, update transferring appropriations between line items for the fiscal year ending April 30th. Discussion? Anybody's got questions for Sherry?
Did you guys get a chance to look at any of this stuff today? Oh, that's right, it's in
Yep.
front of you. Man,
When I sat down.
go over that.
Maybe walk us through.
This is our, every January, we take a look and see what, line items we need to transfer around. And there's always going to be something that probably costs more in one line item and we didn't use somewhere else. And that's basically, we're just moving within, departments and within funds. I've attached a spreadsheet that summarizes those adjustments. We'll have an ordinance prepared for the January 28th meeting. I'll do another review of where everything's at on the 27th to make sure everything's still, nothing's popped up in the next couple of weeks. That's not going to affect this change. We have identified that we'll probably need additional money in the yard waste funds. We have an additional expenses for the contractors are a little more than I think we originally anticipated. We cannot do a supplemental at this time. We can only do one once a year. So that will be done in April.
My question on that is, I thought we had it when we had the contracts and we had the bids for everything. I don't understand, they bid out a certain price on our yard waste program. I don't understand how that went up.
I think it's at 1665 that I'm guessing.
Is that the 1,600 we just approved? Is that what we're talking about?
Some of it, yeah.
So how did it go over the contracted amounts that we set and approved?
It's an additional service.
Yeah, it's
that wasn't
additional
like,
services.
because back when you're exactly right. Because back when we talked about this, it was 12,000 and change per month to do the leaf and limb pickup. And that's why when looking at the warrants, that 1665 stuck out to me as to why would we have another charge? And I think it's just a new service that we've entered into since that. And the new service is, again, them picking up and taking care of the dump site rather than our staff doing it.
In addition,
Which we hadn't anticipated when we signed that agreement, because we thought that the village crew was doing it.
in addition, I think when we were first doing the budget, we planned on we only had budgeted for one cleanup a year.
Yeah.
And our cleanup cost exceeded last year, or the previous year's amount. So we don't have enough in the budget for the spring cleanup that they've planned as part of the program.
The 1 week,
So that was another,
it cost as much for that 1 week as it did for the 2 weeks last year
Really?
in the fall. Yeah, there was that many dumpsters that went through.
I've never seen a turnout like that.
I know.
Do we think that the turnout was a result of folks thinking that it only happened once a year, so that I just couldn't understand because again, we saw pictures, and again, I understand there's going to be a line and those types of things, and try to do it in a safe manner, but does anybody have any theories as to why?
Because I wonder if there was just so much discussion over the program
that's what it
that there
was.
just became more awareness, where I don't think people knew that program existed. And I think just having the discussion basically marketed the availability of it.
I think
That's a theory.
The other thing is, the fee went up. So now you're a little more invested in it. You're paying a little more, so you don't feel so bad about, you know what? I'm gonna take a bunch of stuff that I've got down to the basement and put it in my trunk and take it down there and dump it. So that's what it's for. And we have money in the fund. It's not like we don't have money in the fund. We just didn't budget that amount right now. So we're not gonna have to raise the rate or anything like that. We just need to be able to do a reappropriation when it gets towards the end of the year because the costs were a lot higher than what we anticipated.
And I do have another question regarding the vehicle and equipment maintenance streets under the General Fund Parks and Recreation Department. What, it says a large increase in vehicle repair costs. I don't really understand that, I guess. Is our fleet aged to the point that it costs so much more to fix them, or what? Why is the repairs increasing?
It's because our fleet is aged to the point where a lot of those trucks we don't use during the year unless we have to. They sit in the garage. And then when we have to take them out and do snowplow, they take a beating and they break. And because they're older, they break more often. So we're losing rear ends, front ends, this, that, everything else.
I mean, is there not a way we could do and I don't know what you do in a monthly, quarterly, but just a kind of overall general maintenance on those vehicles that sit for so long and that we know are older, so when it comes to wintertime, we don't have that breakdown.
Well, we do maintenance on them. We do regular oil changes. We check the air in the tires. We grease them. We oil them and stuff like that. But I don't think you realize the beating a truck takes when it tries to plow a street with ice and snow and everything else on it. It puts a real beating on that equipment. It really does. And our fleet is getting older, and we just are going to have to turn around and start budgeting in the future a lot more money for repairs because it's going to just keep happening until we can get to a point where we can replace our fleet, which we can't. You know, we talked about buying a used vehicle from the township. It's a 2011. It's a 10-year-old vehicle. It would be the second newest in our fleet of trucks that the street department uses. So we're still talking about that, and we may do that towards the end of the fiscal year. And we may have to do a reappropriation for that, but we'll approach that when it gets closer to April. But that's just something that we're going to have to face.
How are we on salt?
Salt, we just ordered another shipment of salt. That's
$7,000 or something
Yeah.
for us.
So we don't salt everywhere. We salt hills and major intersections and Walnut Street, our major road. State takes care of Route 4 for us. We don't have to worry about that. And then we hope that at the entrance to a lot of the subdivisions that it carries that salt in a little bit of a way.
I think that's a misnomer among people throughout the community is they think that we salt everywhere, but we really don't.
We can't afford to.
No, yeah.
And
It's just hills and major intersections.
Yeah.
I think that's, yeah.
And did any of you get any complaints on the job that our crews did this last
I
night?
heard everybody did great. That's.
I thought they did
I heard.
the best job that they've probably ever done.
Yeah.
I'll share it. We were caught in that snowstorm coming back into town, and I know my son was in the back street going, you know, the police and the guys out there are risking for us to be safe. And he wanted me to pass along his thanks to the police officer in there. I said I would. But yeah, they do a good job. You could see them all out everywhere
Yeah.
driving back into town.
So it's just something that we're going to have to face going forward. There's going to need to be repairs, and some of the stuff is too big for our one mechanic to be able to fix now. So we have to take it to shops and stuff like that. So
Yeah, the only thing I did hear was a citizen was concerned about Park Street and that maybe we were grinding a little too hard on it. But I shared it with the team and they said that they'd look into it. But I think it's just a function of trying to get that snow off the pavement. It's part of it. But I did share that.
if there isn't a reason for the blade to stick in, it does not hurt it to be able to just
Right,
skin
just
that
scrape
top.
along the top, right. And with that being a new roadway, it's pretty flat, and
Oh.
I don't think you're gonna have those big dives where you can get in and uneven roadway.
Pretty normal to see sparks fly.
There are times you
It
do,
is actually.
yeah. And the jolt that they hit when they hit a manhole that's sticking up just a little bit.
I've seen the blade get caught under a truck and the truck like runs over the blade. Anyway, yeah, good job with the street crew.
But you can see, if you look at this spreadsheet, you guys, you see what's budgeted, what needs to change, and that's the proposed revision of what the budget would go to, okay? So the first three items, or the first three columns going across are the ones where you can see. So we took $6,100 out of the IT admin, or I'm sorry, we took $600 out of $6,100 out of professional services and moved it into IT, you know, to balance that one out. And you can see how much a percentage of the budget's been spent. So there's still items to be purchased in that budget line item. It's just, it hasn't been emptied out. And we've done that all the way through, so.
Appreciate the spreadsheet and all the notes.
Yes.
Actually, this is one of the smaller ones that we've had to do in years. I don't know if you guys remember when we had to do this last year and stuff. There was a lot more pages to it than just two. So,
Transfers are all pretty minor.
yeah.
Dollar-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a question again, so like we have the amounts that were budgeted and the changes, so will you kind of base that budgeted amount next year on the budget plus the change this year, or, okay?
Yeah. Sherry always helps us out by giving us what we ended up with last year. And our task is always to try to stay within those guidelines. And then we look at if there's any new income coming in, and then try to bump up the areas that need to be bumped up.
Okay.
So there'll be an ordinance next meeting to accept these changes, unless we hear different.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, update to cover customer service manual.
I talked to most of you guys in December on this, and I put it out on board docs. It's in the, it's on there. It shows as draft. The staff's been through it numerous times. The trustees have been through it. Some of the highlights, I've got the synopsis sheet, that's also in there. You don't have to pull that up now, though, if you don't want. But, you know, we're deleting language on what the drive-up window, we're not going to be using the drive-up window any further. We've combined residential and non-residential sections into one. We've changed the security deposit for rentals. We will hold on to the security deposit until that person moves out of Chatham. For people that are homeowners, it will still stay the 18 months before we credit that security deposit back. Return checks, we're going to, instead of calling them checks, we call them payments now. This is one of the important ones. All charges that are deemed delinquent after the due date can be disconnected at any time after the 5-day grace period. And really what's happening there is if you have a bill that gets generated in November, okay, the usage of, I'm sorry, not the bill that's generated, the usage in November gets sent, you get a bill for that the first week of December, okay? Then you have till December the 15th or 16th to pay that bill. Now this is December the 16th, you're paying the bill for your usage in November.
No, that's not, you're,
Sherry, you want to explain it?
I could have swore I had this down.
You practiced.
I did.
okay. Think about how readings are taken between, I think, the 1st and the 20th of the month.
Okay.
So
You have to convince them, not me.
You could have a bill October 1st to November 1st. We're going to bill that out at the end of November. So then you're going to have a due date of December 15th. But that usage
Was
pretty
October.
much was from October. Or you, at the best case scenario, it might be from October 15th to November 15th. So it's a little bit, you're always a month behind. You're always-
Yeah, so December 15th, we get the bill for October,
30th,
right,
Or
or
month of
15th.
October.
Yeah.
the month of October, or part of the month of October, part of the month of November.
And then what?
And then we would turn around and not send a shut-off notice until what? 30 days past that? So it'd be sometime in
January?
January.
January 6th.
And then they had 15 days after they got the shut-off notice, or 10 days after the shut-off notice, and then we would shut them off. Now, one of the things that we were running into is I walked over one day, Jamie's over there with Megan, and they've got this stack full of envelopes. And I was like, what is all that? And they're like, these are all the shut-off notices. There was 340 shut-off notices. 340. When we ended up getting around to actually doing the shut-offs, there were 13. So we go through all of this routine of just sending out these notices to people that we're going to shut you off in 10, 15 days. And then they turn around and come in and pay their bill. 12 people got shut off. And we want to stop that. What we're doing is we're putting people in a hole that they can't get out of. They use that electricity in October, and we're shutting them off in February for it. And then we turn around and work out a payment plan for them to be able to pay over the next 4 months.
No, not 4 months. They have to have it paid by the 15th.
Oh, of the next month.
Right.
So you're helping bury people. We want to be able to, we send out a bill. On the bill, it has when it's due, what the grace period is, when the shut-off date is. All on one bill. You get your bill on the 1st. You get your note. It says in there that it's due on the 16th. You got 5 days grace period before we put a penalty on it. It's a one-time penalty. It's not a compounding one. It's just one time. And then at the end of the month, if you don't pay by then, the last day of the month, we shut you off. And we don't turn you back on until you pay in full. And that's what we're proposing.
We don't shut off on Fridays, right?
And we do not shut off on Fridays.
Or during inclement weather. Do you know if there's a provision for that too? Like,
There's provisions for, in the summertime, we shut off the electricity, but when it gets down so cold, we do not shut off electricity and we switch to water. And in the wintertime, we shut off water. The other thing that we're proposing is, right now, we charge a $50 fee to turn you back on. We do not think that we need to turn around and pile on top of somebody that already is that's fallen behind. So we want to waive and get rid of the $50 fee to turn them back on. We think that it's better for us and better for them to pay what they owe, plus the one-time penalty at the end of the month, or they'll stay shut off until they can pay.
That just seems like a really quick trigger.
But other people use that. They do that. Auburn's is exactly that way. Comcast, I think, is that way. You pay by your date. If you miss it within a couple days, they turn your cable off. This, you get the 5-day grace period past the day that it's due, no penalty on it in that 5-day grace period. So you have essentially 2 weeks after that bill is due, 2 to 3 weeks at the most, the last day of the month, to pay your bill.
yeah, again, I just, I think it's the right thing to do to collect our monies. And I do know that our utilities are expensive, so it's probably difficult for the families that don't make as much to pay them. And sometimes you got to float cash, and I know that I lived that life for a long time. But I still think that, we should never ever do it on a Friday such that, because it says clearly that we're only going to reactivate during business hours. So I don't want anyone to go all weekend and have all their food spoiled and put them in a further position. But I also at the same time think that activations need to occur before 10 a.m. for that same result. Like if I come home from work at 4:30 and my power's out and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot that bill, it was on the desk, whatever. I want to be able to go in that night and have it turned back on rather than, again, go all night without and then have all my stuff spoiled.
The problem that we run into is you can go and pay your bill online now. There's no way for our staff to know if you went in and paid your bill after you got
Right,
shut off.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you shut it off at 10, that gives me a warning like, I'm in serious trouble here. But if you shut it off at 4:45 and everybody goes home at 5, you see what I'm saying? Like, there's no way I could fix it that day.
Well, see, the only problem there is a lot of people, if the office closed at 4:25, there are people walking in at 4:20 to pay their bill to keep from getting shut off. So we can't really shut them off at 10 o'clock in the morning.
10 the next day. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to get to is that I don't, it may be me someday. I don't want to be in a position where
If
I get shut off and I can't do anything.
they shut it off at 10 and you don't get home from work until 5, you won't know it anyway, that way either.
So if you get shut off, they can't tell if you pay, say you do get home at 5 or whatever and you pay it online. You guys can't tell?
No,
Oh,
we don't have staff that monitors who comes in and pays their bill.
so one would have to come into the office and pay?
And they close at 4:20.
You can't pay, so if you're behind, you can't pay online?
You can pay online. I
Yeah.
think what you're saying is that the person that would turn the electric back on doesn't know if it's been paid or not because the utility team is out.
Okay. Yeah, because, yeah,
Is there,
Because then we'd be paying somebody just to be on call to come back in and turn everybody on. Well, we did everything that we could by trying to let them know that, hey, we are going to shut you off if you do not pay by this time at the end of working hours on this day.
So they know that on Friday, say it's a Friday, and they won't get shut off.
We won't
They'll
get
be
you.
able to at least go till Monday, and they'll
Correct.
have all on Monday. So essentially, they'll have all of Friday and all on Monday if it's a weekend.
Hold on, I
Right.
missed something.
I mean,
It's
it's
due the
adding an
30th.
extra day.
It's due the 30th. I've got a 5-day grace period now. Today's the 5th.
But we don't shut off on Fridays. So
Right.
if the last working day is a Friday, we would not shut them off until
Monday.
following Monday.
At the end of the day, right? Or is it Monday morning?
We would probably go out and start shutting them off on Monday morning then.
Okay, so in that case, they would come home to no electricity,
Right.
and then they'll want to pay
Right,
maybe online.
right. But the utility office is
Will
closed
be
at 4.
closed.
so this is basically the 6th day after the grace period.
Yes.
So so we're already past the grace period at this point.
Right.
Well, it's longer than 6 days.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
Yeah.
this is-
Yeah, because your bill's due on the,
Right, well, I mean, I'm just saying,
21st
with-
day.
yeah,
it's the 21st day.
so it's another,
That's receiving your bill, but you're only 5 days late.
Right.
yeah.
so Pat, with this shut off in our 311 system, is there a way we could trigger a message to go out to those individual homeowners? Hey, your utilities have been shut off.
24-hour warning.
Yeah, could we send out a message, like they said, they're at work at 10 o'clock in the morning, get shut off, and that triggers a message to them to where they could even pay it online right there or from their phone?
I think it makes sense.
Could we do
I
that?
think the problem is that we don't have every single customer's email address or cell phone number that we could text or a process inside of our billing system to be able to run that report and have it automatically dial these people and tell them.
Or if they
We wouldn't have everyone's
don't
cell
have a
phone
cell.
or a phone number?
Or a contact number?
A lot of,
What if they only
we
have a
probably have the
landline?
same information right now as the day that my
We just
wife
shut off the
walked in
electricity.
and got utilities at here 37
The
years
landline, you
ago.
don't need electricity. Unless it's
you
in
do.
VoIP.
So the whole idea is pay your bill before it gets to the end of the month.
It's about
if-
prioritizing.
Yeah.
You know.
And
When you pay your bill, you get a confirmation number
How come they can't call the utility office and give them that confirmation?
Because there isn't a person there to answer the phone when they call. It's after
Well,
hours.
10:30, and they pay it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
But if it's during the day.
if it's during the day, they would not get put on the shut-off list. They usually wait till just about the end of the day and look at that list and say, okay, no one's come in.
Oh,
Here, guys, go out, shut these off. They go out and shut them off, and then they go home.
so they do get a list
Yes.
telling them who has paid.
Our guys get a list saying who has not paid. So if they put together a list of who's going to get shut off, if they have 15 names or addresses on there, they go out and shut off those 15 addresses. Then they go home for the night. They turn around and come home and pay online. There's nobody there to know that they paid online. There's no way for us to know till the next morning. Then Jamie looks at it and says, oh, okay, these 10 paid, these 5 still stay off until they pay.
And so, again, I think we all understand, but my request is that the grace period ends on the 5th. So if they don't come in by Cobb on the 5th, Monday morning, or sorry, the 6th, the morning of the 6th, before 10 a.m., that's when they get shut off. That way, they have a chance that day to get reinstalled. And whether, again, you know, I still think that Mao's idea is, Trustee Mao's idea is a good idea because, again, I think just people forget. That's how it works. And I think your letter proved that it reminded them. You know, maybe it's not that they're playing games with the money, but rather they just forgot. Life's busy and things are crazy, and it wasn't that they were gaming the system as much as just got
300
distracted.
people don't forget. That's the pattern.
Yep. Again, I'm just thinking about the family that gets turned off at 4:45 and they can't get it back on.
But if it's 10 a.m. and they don't get home till 5 o'clock,
It won't matter.
it won't, whether it's 10 or 4:45, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Okay, so if I remember correctly in the document, the business office, the utility office is closing at 4:15. So if at the end of the day, we're dispatching people to go out and turn stuff off, then chances are, if that's the end of the day, they're still out there at 4:25 when the utility office is closed. So there is no opportunity once you're off until the next day.
Correct.
You know, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, to your point, I think there's going to be people that are still going to come home after the fact, but you're trying to catch the people that may happen to find out during the day and
If they got a warning over lunch hour that it got shut off, then
Yeah.
they have the chance to
they at least have
turn it
a
off.
chance.
Turn it off.
Idea, collecting the
They work
funds.
from home like Dewey. Dewey would know.
So go ahead and do it earlier in the day instead of the end, is basically on that 6th
Yeah.
day. It's
On
basically
the
what-
6th day, not the 5th.
First thing in the morning, like the 6th day.
Right as they're in the shower. Just kidding. Yeah. Anyway.
I would agree with that.
Let's see,
Still gives them a short time frame.
we're not going to replace indoor meters from now on. Any new meters or any meters that need to be replaced, we'll put a pit out front, put those outside. Water meter testing, you guys passed that back when we were changing some of the fees from $20 to say whatever the cost of it is. Special events, they'll be required to apply for a $100 license application. However, if that can be waived if they pay for so many temporary electric hookups. We've had people in the past turn around and say they're going to have an event. We don't charge them for the electricity, and then we end up don't getting any money from them filling out a license for an event. So this way, either you pay the $100 event, or if you have that $100 event fee and you need a temporary electric hookups, we'll come out, we charge you for each of those temporary electric hookups, and we waive the $100. Let's see, landlords are responsible for utilities until a new tenant signs up for service.
Isn't that an ordinance that we talked about a couple of years ago, didn't we?
And it is. It's just that we've never really enforced it because we've let people get drug out for so long. Now, how do you turn around and pin that on them? That's why when I talked to the landlords a year and a half ago, they were for shutting them off at the end of a month because if they're going to get stuck with a bill, that bill isn't going to be more than what they've got in deposit to be able to pay for it. So if we find anybody tampering with meters, which we've had in the past, a police report will be filed. We still do leak adjustments, but those will all be forwarded to the Utility Oversight Committee for approval or denial. And we are not going to have payment plans going forward, except for in the case where leak adjustments or incorrect billing or large budget billing overages or admitted services. So if we make a mistake or if somebody has one of those large water usages that you can't figure out, the meter seems to work, but nobody knows where it went, we'll allow to work out a payment plan for that. And we changed the wording for medical certification to match our policy and the Illinois laws. So the plan is to put this in place in May, and we'll try to publicize and let as many people know as possible about the possibility of getting shut off, and that you will not be getting a special shut off notice in the future. The shut off notice and the date that it will be shut off will be clearly on the bottom of the bill. So.
I think we're still going to want some more dialogue around that shut off.
Yeah, I think I'd like to get the warning set up. We have the application to do it.
Well,
you could send text messages in one massive email.
Yeah.
You're being shut off today.
It's just whether that person has a device to be able to get an email.
And I would just say send what we can, because at least we're trying, and we're attempting to reach out and say, hey, your stuff shut off, we really don't care why, just pay it, your utilities will be turned back on. I mean, that's what, we don't want to turn people off. That's not the business we're in.
If it's 12 people, it's manageable. If it's 300 people, it's not manageable.
Well,
So
and
it's
I
a
think,
scale.
but I think your data kind of proves out that it's not 300 people that actually.
It turns out to be 12.
But I think it's
Right.
going to be a growing pain for some folks at the beginning. If they're used to not paying any attention to their bill and they wait till they get that red flyer that comes in the mail and says you're getting shut off in 10 days, and then they act on it. We've got to do our best between now and May to let everybody know that that's not coming anymore. The girls in the office will stress it to folks that continually run into problems. But we need to be able to make sure it's in the papers, it's on our webpage.
That shut off is still 21 days after your grace period is ended, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Still an amount of time.
No, 5 days. When grace period's up, you're shut off.
No. Grace period ends the 21st, and they don't do it till the end of the month. So
Right.
it's another 9 days
Today
Or
or in the
10.
future, when this thing is adopted?
when this is adopted.
When this is adopted.
So you're gonna advertise on the newspaper, website, you're gonna post it in the office,
Social media.
social media. So, I
You'll put
mean,
it
that's
right
a
on
big
the
part of
homepage so
it.
people don't have to search for it.
Reread that bullet.
Pat, how many people do auto?
Auto pay? Call in and just pay it on their
No.
phone?
No,
Have an
Or
account
automatically
set up,
have it deducted?
yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. Probably not that many. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think we have it, I can only tell you about how much money we bring in, so I would.
It says any day after, but he said that they're going to, so I would put into the month.
Doesn't say that.
So about a fifth.
Yep. Pat Ennis, it says they'll do,
Now. Yeah.
So why do we put envelopes in each bill when they're sent out? Why shouldn't that be eliminated? That's a cost that could be eliminated.
The printing company doesn't have a way to segregate which bills don't.
Yeah.
We have to just get rid of the.
It's one or all.
But I need to start a pile, because I never use
Yeah.
it, where, in my opinion, nobody should receive an envelope.
So it says, like we talked, you said you'll do it at the end of the month, but here it just says it's going to be anytime after the 5-day grace period. Can we put the end of the month?
I think
That the bills
might
due?
have been missed in the Cliff Notes. I think if you look at the actual
Okay.
verbiage in.
Oh, yeah, I read that the
Yeah.
other month.
It says the last day of the month.
Me too.
And we need to make sure that the last day of the month, that it's not a Friday, okay?
Can we get this on the committee of the whole next time too, just so they can look at it?
Oh, yeah, this is for discussion at
Up
every
until May.
committee of the whole. People have questions, concerns. Look at it.
And when are you wanting to put the communication out, in like April?
I would like to pass this sometime in,
Early April?
Yeah, I think it should.
or late March or something like
Okay.
that, so that everybody knows that it's gonna happen, and then we
Mild weather.
use a month to a month and a half of, this is what's gonna happen.
That's reasonable.
Plenty of time.
I'm also hoping, just by us having this discussion a few times, and with our fabulous newspaper in town,
Oh, yeah,
that
newspaper.
that awareness will also help before we even send out that communication and the formal
I think
notices.
he's saying too, this is gonna stay on the committee agenda, right, for next.
Yeah, we'll put it on the
Yeah.
next committee
So
of
it's
the
not
whole.
going
Good.
away, this discussion can stay
Yeah.
recurring.
I would also like us to consider lowering the late fee. I know we're at 10% now. I've brought it up in the past. But I would like to see us drop that to 5%. Just because the overall cost,
For getting paid
and it
soon.
is what it is,
Okay.
right? I mean, that's just,
You see, we thought about that, but then we said, let's just not charge the $50, turn back on. That's probably a bigger savings than the 10%. So.
depends on your usage.
You got a lot of adults in your house.
All right, village manager update.
I think that was it.
All right.
I'll combine them.
Public Property and Recreation Committee discussion, Mr. Detmers?
Yes, thank you to two committee members, Mrs. Windish and Mr. Saucier, for coming. Sorry for sitting through this long meeting, but I appreciate it. So one of the things that we had talked about, and I don't know if you want to bring it up now, Pat, is the park comprehensive plan.
Our comprehensive plan has been worked on, revised, reviewed, revised, worked on a little bit more, revised. It's been through the Public Properties Committee. We've had public hearings.
June 5th.
Yeah, it's to the point where we need to move it forward for acceptance by the board. One thing that I noticed when I read through it, and I'm not exactly sure whether it needs to be in there or not, is any kind of prioritization.
Yep, so the PPRC met and we discussed prioritization, and I think there are going to be different, at least from that group, there will be different levels of prioritization, meaning these are shorter term, more immediate, cheaper items, and these are when you prioritize these big projects, these are the priorities that we'd like to see these big projects worked in. But I think it's going to take commitment from this board to start funding these things along with other things. So we're going to have to, make some tough decisions and decide if anything in these comprehensive plans are something we want to move forward with. We're going to start having to set money aside because this stuff isn't going to be cheap. But we did talk about priorities last night. Some of the things in here, if you had a chance to review, please do if you hadn't. Dog park seemed to be very high up on the list of priorities. I know that there are different groups trying to raise money for that. I don't know what else is needed at this point to move forward other than weather and commitment from the village. And then, so aside from the dog park. We had J.C. Park. There were some parking issues there as well at South Park. There's always constantly parking issues. We'd like to see those addressed at some point. What was the third one I'm missing, Rollo? I have my notes here, but. Oh, so there's some concern from the CBSI organization that there already is a shortage of baseball fields in Chatham, and that if we were to move forward with any of these drawings, like at Community Park, for instance, South Park, it says eliminate Diamond 1 and replace it with parking. The request is to not eliminate any baseball diamonds until newer diamonds have been already installed, because there's already a shortage, and we lost through a couple at Westside Park, and we don't know when they're going to go back in. And so that organization was just reminding everyone that there is lots of folks that play softball and baseball, and there already is a shortage of, oh, here it is. And then generally, park maintenance is another thing that we'd like to have more attention drawn to. Like, you know, we asked different groups for mulch, and those groups came forward with money to buy that mulch. And then it's not yet been fully installed, and it is desperately needed. So just some focus on continued park maintenance in addition to those larger items.
Trustee Detmers, is Massey coming in to do a presentation for the board, or?
I was under the impression that they were coming tonight, but I think that's not the case.
I just wanted you guys to be able to talk about it without them here. If you see stuff in there that you really want to change or you have questions on, we can get them back down here and talk to you guys.
Will they still do a presentation after this?
If you want, yeah. If you guys look at this and you're okay with it, he can come back and present it as a final plan. Okay.
I'd like to see the prioritization list with the categories.
The thing that I was hoping for is that this is supposed to be a tool for us now, okay?
Right.
With this, we have the ability to go out and look for grants, all right? But I can't give them this and say, this is what we want a grant for.
Right.
There's something in here that's got to be the big ticket item that we want to go after, that we can fill out the paperwork and go through and push that as a grant. That's where you guys step in. I can give you recommendations and stuff, but
So are you asking, you're asking us then to provide that prioritization?
I think we need to know right off the bat, once you look through this and you feel, which do you think is the best thing to move forward with to go after grant money? Is it to fix all the drainage through South Park and acquire more land to the south, add more ball diamonds, more soccer fields, which, like you said, in the plan, it shows one of the diamonds coming out then to provide more parking? Is that what we're looking for, to turn around and get grant money to be able to finish one park?
Because that land was CWLP land, wasn't it?
No, this is land south of the soccer fields, okay? Adjacent to South Park subdivision.
Okay.
That we could acquire some property out there and turn around and add a couple more, 3 to 4 more baseball diamonds,
Yeah.
parking.
80 parking spots. If you look at the cover sheet, it's this little tiny green plot right here that was sort of drawn up as this is a potential place that we could acquire land and build on to community park. But I think as you hear Kent Massey from this organization present, he will tell you that we have a lot of our park space all in one spot.
Yeah.
And that building into community park may seem convenient, but it's doing a disservice for other citizens in other regions of Chatham.
Right.
You know, looking through here and talking about prioritization, you know, one of the biggest parks in here that has been pushed off and pushed off and pushed off and umpteen times throughout and it's not really anybody's fault, it's just been pushed off, is the one that would affect Fox Creek and Cardinal Ridge and is the Prairie Vista Park. This park's been talked about for probably, I don't know, I've been on the board 9 years. It's been talked about at least that long. And, you know, supposedly promises were made that this park was going to get built, you know, 10 years ago. So, you know, I still think this is should be a priority in our conversations. when we do talk about what we're gonna, prioritize.
I don't disagree, Matt, but the problem right now is it's a flood hazard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I mean,
can't put anything
we
in
can't
right
put
now.
anything in that park right now until the farm property that's north of it develops. Then all of that water will go into storm sewers, get bypass that area, and then you can develop that park. So until that happens, I think it's gonna have to sit there.
Yeah.
We don't have the money to turn around and put in a major drainage to grab all that and scoot it around.
Listen, and I agree, this is important, but it's contingent upon when that property is developed and sells, this for sale up there.
And with the way that layout of that land is there's nothing saying that if somebody's developing it, there may be pieces that are left over that they may be willing to give us that would increase the footprint of this park, which might allow for a different type of development in it or something like that. So I know we've put it off and we've put it off, but I don't see a solution right now.
I just want to make sure it's fresh in our minds as we move forward, for when things do start to.
Well, if you look, I mean, you saw that big green area next to it there. That's buying some very, very expensive land to turn it around and develop as a park. I couldn't recommend that as your village manager because that's more valuable if it develops as commercial property and we can get sales tax revenue off that. I think it makes more sense for us to purchase property maybe over on the other side of West Park on that farmland that's out there and maybe develop that and do something with it because the cost per acre has to be so much cheaper.
Oh, yeah, it's agricultural, it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
I think we're have an opportunity at the CWLP fields there north of the Willows.
Yeah.
That could alleviate a lot of baseball and soccer constriction if we could figure out an intergovernmental agreement with CWLP and get that land.
What you want to make sure of there is that property is, and it says it in here, but that's when the lake was dredged, that's where all that dirt and trees and sticks and essentially crap went onto those fields.
Right, we wouldn't build structures. That's why I think a baseball, football field would be fine with just foot traffic and.
But, if that's something that we want to do, we could start having discussions with CWLP and see,
Well, how do we want to approach it? I guess more than getting into the weeds, I mean, how do we want to approach coming up to the solution that we're being asked? I mean, if we're being asked to help prioritize, then how do we as the board want to approach that? Do we want to set out time of the committee of the whole from here on out to discuss this and take it chunk at a time?
Well, I want to go back. Trustee Detmers, did you say that the committee wanted to provide a short, mid, long-term?
Yeah, I listed those 5 items there. We talked about those last night, and I think that group, obviously they're here representing and they're engaged and would help in any way. So when Pat said, I think it might be helpful if we give a list of priorities, that is the list that group came up with.
Was that all in one category, the short term, or?
Well,
he's got it written down.
No, the reality is that, like, if you did everything at Community Park, you're talking millions of dollars. I think we could probably split things into subsections, but I don't think that there's a ton of money right now set aside to work on these items. So the items that we provided seemed pretty reasonable with related to expense. So we thought if you had an extra $10,000 at the end of the year, you could knock out a few of these. And after the commitment that this group gives and the involvement in various things throughout Chatham, I think they lined up with what I'm hearing.
and that's important to us. That way we got something to aim for. I mean, this is a big document. Trying to pick and choose and leaving it up to the staff. I mean, we can come up with stuff and that's the thing that we'll probably do is each one of those items, we will turn around and try to get a cost estimate of what we think it will take to be able
To do
to
each one.
fulfill that grant or that request. We still need what you want as the big ticket item, so that when Dustin goes to put the information together to start writing a grant, what do you want to, do you want to start a brand new park someplace? Do you want to turn around and aim for the CWLP stuff? If we can lay the work out ahead of time and find out that they may be willing to sell a portion of it to us or something like that.
It also may be, Dustin may need to come talk to us depending on the grant. There may be a particular project that would have a more likelihood of success.
Yeah, if like bike paths or something like that.
So I don't want us, kind of waste spinning our wheels saying, let's go for this one, when we would have had a more competitive proposal going with this project and a more likelihood to happen. So there's going to be a little bit of both, where depending on that grant, we may want to consider what the qualifications for that grant are, as well as we consider our priorities.
All right.
Because otherwise, I think we're going at it blind. I mean, this is great, and this is what our priorities are, but in terms of where we're getting funding, we need that third point of the triangle.
Well, I think another factor, in specifically the CWLP fields, that we need to consider is what the road costs of the, and I don't know, I call it Wildlife Sanctuary Road, but what kind of impact that's going to have on us too, because I'm sure if we're buying those fields, they're going to want some kind of help maintaining or redoing that road, which right now is not good by any means.
We're in the agreement to allow Mr. Christophilakis to put a subdivision there. We said that we would maintain that road. And we have an agreement with Mr. Christophilakis to upgrade that road. It got to late in the year last year, it was too late to turn around and start asphalting, but he's gonna have to do some work on that road to get it up to a certain level. Now, the entrance up there by
Gordon,
where it meets Gordon, the county is gonna require him to put in signals and channels and everything else if that area develops commercially. Now, if he sells all that property and somebody buys it and they wanna come in and start doing the commercial stuff, then they're responsible for it. So there are people in place to be able to get those roads upgraded. It's just, it's timing.
But is there, and like we've talked about other agreements and other contracts and other things, is there any teeth in there that Harold Christophilakis or Mr. Christophilakis has to do those upgrades?
He has to get that road upgraded to our standard
By when?
before we accept another plat from him. And he knows that.
Peggy or Rollo, did you guys have anything?
Yeah, I'd like to know what your guys' top priority is.
The dog park, we know that there's a big demand for that. I mean, I actually have information on 5 different grants that I've been giving to Dustin, after this meeting and stuff, and we're trying to move on. We know there's an important need for sports fields throughout. I would love to have each of the parks look a little nicer. We talk about park maintenance, I think there's a lot more we could do. We just spruce things up and just keep them looking a little nicer.
And Rolo, those grants are specific for dog parks?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So that's, to what I was saying earlier, I think if that's where you've done all this work, found the funding opportunities, it's tied to dog parks, it's identified in our comprehensive plan, I think that's something that would definitely, it moves that up to the top of the list.
And fundraising has already started for that.
Right.
Possipalooza, the
Right.
paint that, other things to add to the park and stuff.
Right.
I think we were needing some help with some grant writing, right? And I think Dustin has some experience or knowledge, and so I think that was one of the suggestions.
I have done that.
How to?
Who?
Ryan Crawford?
Ryan is road grants also, yeah.
Okay.
Have them talk to me. I've done that professionally and had.
Have you? Awesome.
Right after this meeting?
Not right after this meeting, but
You need an ink pen?
Yeah, I was going to mention it.
All right.
He stayed at a Holiday Inn Select.
a Motel 6, I thought.
The other thing we discussed too was park maintenance, before we do a new park, to make sure our other parks are still up to par and everything.
I would agree with that.
Well, and I agree, because I have always said, whether it be roads, whether it be whatever, that we maintain what we have before we start something new and make sure what we have is maintained to where it should be to move forward.
Yeah, I would even add, you know, that, I don't know, I'm gonna step on myself here because I didn't want to get too far into the weeds, but you've got, you know, we've got issues in our parks, both West Park floods and Community Park floods, South Park, and those things would need to be addressed before we could even begin to upgrade those parks or do anything with them.
But another park that we know will flood?
No. Well, again, if you listen to Kent Hill explain that, so on West Side Park, we've done the regrading, and that's helped with flooding substantially. And I think that the approximation is that a dog park could go on the northeast corner of that, and flooding won't be that much of an issue. And then on a community park, the drawing shows to convert the center of the park that floods into a natural basin.
Right.
And then that natural basin could be used by another group that we met with last night. Rolla, do you want to give an intro to the Monarch, or do you want me to give it?
Well, sure. Carla Frank made a presentation to us last night. She's a master gardener. Those things are on here. She's actually a master gardener at the Frank Lloyd Wright Home. Works on the items there. And she is interested in creating a Monarch way station in Chatham. And that and she will pretty much provide all the information. She is growing all the plants that are needed to put in this thing. Lives right by Community Park, and so that she would walk there. And as far as maintaining it, it basically needs water about every 2 weeks, and would be willing to do that. But it is something. It's an educational thing. It's important again to our existence that these creatures stay alive. And this program, it would be a certified way station for them. And she's proposing putting it near the soccer concession stands and by the playground, and so there would be an educational opportunity for the children who are playing in the playground. You'd have people on the bike path would be able to stop and see that. And she actually has one at her house, which is in Prairie Grove, and say that the butterfly traffic is amazing. I mean, how it has changed. And it would be something. The cost would be minimal. And we were saying that we're sure that other groups would be more than willing to fund this thing, and she would maintain it.
Excuse my ignorance, but what is a Monarch way station? I mean, I assume it's for butterflies, yes, but I don't.
They have little bitty scales.
That's what I was guessing. I'm like, why are we weighing butterflies? What? Yeah.
Because you can't ride them.
We make sure they don't have congestive heart.
It's just where they park, basically, on their migration north or south. They'll park there.
Okay.
And then and what she mentioned to me was that she had originally come to me asking for bees to be allowed in Chatham, and that's currently not allowed in Chatham because they're considered agriculture.
Yeah.
And some people believe them to be dangerous. But she said that monarchs are also pollinators, and so she could do that. And so I did talk to Pat about this briefly prior to our discussion with her last night. And there's an Eagle Scout that's interested in building a butterfly garden, and that they had talked about putting that in front of the cemetery off of Walnut. So what I was proposing was that we get Carla, the Eagle Scout, and Pat together to say, hey, look, this is a super cheap project. We could probably do a couple of them in town, and here are some groups that will help maintain it. But I think that it made sense to bring it to the Public Properties Commission and then bring it before this board to see if you guys are into that sort of thing. Or I know Ryan hates butterflies, but
he's more
right.
So anyway,
there's
tons of information. Again, the site that she chose, I think there's some good things and some drawbacks. So I think that she seemed open to discussion. Like personally, I know this park and that they'll be either destroyed or filled with garbage and that sort of thing. So we've got to strategize on where the best locations are, but that's just another priority that these sorts of things come up, and this group uses their diligence to try to make sure that they're bringing forward to you guys only the ones that they think make sense, like they're cheap or they're very much demanded from the citizens. And I appreciate them coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're speaking to the pickleball champs up there.
Yeah.
too.
We have the hardware,
Yep. 2 champs.
but I want to say thank you. You guys
Yeah.
put a lot of time in, and I don't think you get enough thank yous too, because we appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Dewey?
No, just going to move forward on the Monarch thing. So we'll get Pat in touch with Carla.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
that's it.
Next, Utility Oversight Committee. Pat, can we schedule that for February 10th, that Monday before? No, it wasn't on the previous meeting list. Just so, maybe.
I probably put it on the event calendar and forgot to add it in the scheduled meeting.
All right,
I'll check on it.
just so I can notify. So that way, maybe we'll have good news about the chloramines by February 10th.
Maybe we'll get that news soon.
Soon may
Don't
happen.
make promises.
Yeah, they said, Jim said late January, early February, but he didn't say what year, so.
All right, public comments on village business. We had nobody sign up. Scheduled meetings, committee of the whole is going to be February 11th, 2020. No reason to go into a closed session, correct? I have a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Mao, second by trustee Churchill. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.